5 o'clock in the morning, on the flat, wind-scoured delta of southern France, something white moves inside the mist. The salt marsh is waking cold. Red water below, hard crust underfoot, and the sea pressing at the edge of the land. Here, the Camargue horses do not simply live in a beautiful place. They survive inside a trap built from mud, brine, wind, and darkness. Every step must read the ground before the ground takes it. Every hour changes the rules. And when daylight drains from the lagoons tonight, the herd will face the one test no single horse can survive alone. To understand why the circle holds, the story must begin at first light. Chapter 1. Dawn over the red water. From the very first light, the Camargue does not reveal itself as land. It reveals itself as a surface. A vast, wind-swept Mediterranean delta lies stretched across southern France, where the Rhône has slowed into brackish lagoons, endless pink salt pans, and marshy glasswort pastures. Nothing rises high enough to protect it. No forest wall, no mountain shoulder. Only flat water, white salt, grey sky, and the mistral wind moving low across the marsh before the day has fully begun. In that cold, blue hour, the night animals are not disappearing at random. They are surrendering their shift. A European badger waddles along the muddy edge of a salt pan, its black and white face wet with mist, its curved, digging claws now carrying the residue of a night spent opening the hard crust for roots, worms, and buried invertebrates. Farther back, a red fox slips into the reeds, not fleeing but calculating. Once daylight strengthens, the open flats will no longer belong to its eyes and ears. Near the dark waterline, a Eurasian beaver finishes its silent work, guiding a branch toward the shelter of a lodge, while a koipu cuts a lower, heavier path through the shallows. Then the lagoon itself begins to speak. The first greater flamingos stand like pale pink markers in the mirror water. One head lifts, then another. Their long necks unfold above the mist, and the flock's low honking spreads across the salt pans like a slow vibration. Their color is not decoration. It begins below them, in algae, brine shrimp, and the carotenoid-rich food chain hidden inside the pink water. Each bird lowers its head and works the lagoon with a specialized, downward-curved bill, pumping muddy water through fine lamellae that separate food from silt. Beside them, the smaller waders read the shallows with different tools. A pied avocet draws its upturned bill from side to side, sweeping by touch through the cloudy water. A black-winged stilt places its long red legs carefully into the brine, feeding without breaking the stillness. A little egret waits with sharper patience, turning one white body into a blade against the muted flats. Only after this smaller machinery has begun does the central presence of the marsh appear. Camargue horses emerge from the mist as if the salt itself has taken animal form. They are not large horses. Many stand only a little over 1.35 meters at the withers, compact, deep-chested, and built close to the ground. But in this landscape, size is not the main advantage. Balance is. Patience is. A hoof must enter mud without vanishing into it. A body must stand for hours in wet ground without breaking down. A herd must move as one animal through a world that gives no firm path. The adults look white against the red water, but that whiteness is misleading. Beneath the pale coat is dark skin, and many foals are born brown or bay before their hair slowly lightens with age. Even the horses are shaped by transformation here. One mare steps forward. Her hoof presses through the thin skin of water, breaks the surface tension, and sends a dull splash across the glasswork. The sound carries. A European roe deer in the foreground lifts its ears, listening. The herd behind the mare begins to follow, not in panic, not in display, but in a slow, synchronized line through knee-deep, brackish water. A dominant male lowers his head and tears at the red glasswort near the waterline. The stems are tough, salt-rich, and uninviting to many grazers. But for these horses, this harsh pasture is part of the daily bargain. The Camargue horse does not conquer the hypersaline ecosystem. It survives by accepting its rules. At the drier edge of the pasture, the first Camargue bull becomes visible, black, heavy, almost motionless. Its crescent horns and dark body form a living contrast to the white herd. The horses notice it without breaking rhythm. They do not challenge the bull. They adjust their line, choosing the softer water instead of the contested ground. Above the reeds, a common kingfisher flashes blue and vanishes. Higher still, a western marsh harrier begins a low, searching patrol over the awakening flats. But the morning still belongs to the herd. Through telephoto lens compression, the world seems flattened into layers. Flamingos in the red lagoon, bulls on the dark edge, waders stitching the shallows, and the white horses moving steadily between them. This is biological realism written in water and salt. Every creature is using the same delta differently. Pink and crimson. And as the mist thins, the kingdom becomes clear. The Camargue is not an empty wilderness with animals placed inside it. It is a living system of pressure, food, footing, wind, and timing. The horses are simply the most visible part of it, the white line that shows where the day has begun to move. Chapter 2. The Road Through the Salt Marsh. By mid-morning, the Camargue no longer feels hidden. The last mist does not vanish all at once. It tears apart in low strips, sliding over the pink water and leaving the herd exposed beneath a flat, grey sky. The Mediterranean delta opens around them in every direction. Brackish lagoons, white salt crusts, dark mud, and glasswort pastures bent low under the first hard push of the mistral wind. For the Camargue horses, this is where the day becomes physical. The herd begins to move with more purpose now, not as a charge, but as a long white current crossing the flooded pasture. The lead mare does not choose the shortest route, she chooses the route that holds. Each hoof enters the water with a pause before the body follows. If the mud accepts the weight, the line continues. If it pulls too deep, the herd shifts sideways, almost without breaking rhythm. This is the first lesson of the salt marsh. Distance matters less than footing. Behind the adults, the foals turn that lesson into play. One young horse bucks into the shallows, throws water behind its hind legs, and lands awkwardly in the soft mud. It recovers, shakes its head, and returns to the moving line. Nothing about the moment is wasted. In a landscape where a hard crust can hide a weak bottom, play is rehearsal. Balance, retreat, pressure, spacing. The body learns them before the mind ever needs them. The mistral wind grows stronger. It presses against the horses from the side, dragging their manes into rough white ropes and driving small ripples across the brackish lagoons. The same wind rattles the reed beds and bends the dry glasswort stems until the pasture seems to hiss. Sound becomes a map. The herd listens through it. The splash of nearby hooves, the low calling of flamingos, the brittle knock of stems, the deeper scrape of something heavy moving at the edge of the marsh. There, a Camargue bull stands in the drier ground. It is not moving toward the herd, but it does not have to. Its black body interrupts the route like a closed gate. The horses respond with the economy of animals that understand shared space. No panic, no wasted challenge. The lead mare angles toward the water, and the rest of the herd follows. The bull keeps the firmer edge. The horses take the flooded line. This is not conflict as spectacle. It is negotiation written through movement. As the herd enters the thicker glasswort pastures, several adults lower their heads and begin to feed. The red-tinted stems are tough, salt-washed, and close to the ground. The horses pull at them in short, forceful bites, then grind slowly, turning a harsh plant into usable energy. The marsh gives nothing easily. Even grazing here is a form of endurance. Their hooves disturb the mud as they feed. That disturbance reaches beyond the horses. Tiny invertebrates shift in the water. Brine flies lift from the wet edge. A fresh hoofprint fills with pink water, becoming a small basin where artemia flicker like transparent sparks. The greater flamingos nearby work the same hidden abundance on a larger scale, heads inverted, bills pumping mud and water through fine filters. Their feeding looks elegant from a distance, but up close it is mechanical, repetitive, and exact. The smaller birds divide the shallows even more finely. A pied avocet sweeps its upturned bill side to side where the water is thin. A black-winged stilt steps through the brine with almost impossible delicacy, touching the mud without collapsing into it. Farther out, Eurasian spoonbills move with slower patience, swinging their flattened bills through the cloudy water. Each species is reading a different depth, a different texture, a different layer of the same lagoon. The horses pass between them, central but never separate. At the reed margin, a wild boar roots through drier mud, turning over clods that the morning has already begun to stiffen. A European roe deer freezes at the sound, ears rotating toward the herd, the wind, and the hidden brush. In a side channel, a koipu pushes forward with a cut reed in its mouth. On a half-submerged log, a European pond turtle remains almost motionless, absorbing what little warmth can pass through the overcast light. The delta has become a moving system. The horses open mud, the birds follow exposed food, the bull redirects the herd, the wind reshapes scent and sound. The water records every step for a moment, then closes over it. By late morning, the white herd has crossed the first difficult road of the day. But the Camargue is widening ahead of them, brighter now, flatter now, less forgiving. And soon, under the still weight of midday, even the act of moving will begin to cost too much. Chapter 3. When the sun stands still. By midday, the Camargue no longer feels wide. It feels compressed. The flat, overcast light presses down on the Mediterranean delta until the pink salt pans, white crusts, brackish lagoons, and glasswork pastures lose their depth. The mistral wind, which ruled the morning, drops almost completely. Without it, the marsh loses its moving skin. No reeds thrashing, no hard ripples crossing the red water. Only heat, salt, and a silence heavy enough to change behavior. The Camargue horses stop first. The herd leaves the exposed glasswork edge and moves into deeper water. Not fully submerged, not helpless, but chest deep in the lagoon, where the lower body can release heat into the surrounding brine. A horse's normal internal temperature sits roughly around 37 to 38 degrees Celsius, and when the air becomes still, water becomes the more useful surface. Cooler water pulls heat away faster than stagnant air. In the Camargue, the lagoon is not just habitat. At midday, it becomes a cooling device. The herd packs tighter. In the morning, they crossed the marsh as a line. Now they stand like a white barrier in the dark water. One horse rests its chin across another's back. A scarred male closes his eyes, but his ears continue to rotate. A foal sleeps flat on the cracked mudbank nearby, taking the deeper rest that young animals need, while the adults remain upright around it. Their movement is reduced to the smallest possible signals: a tail flick, a skin twitch, a slow nostril flare. This is not laziness, it is energy management. At the edge of the pasture, a Camargue bull reaches the same conclusion by a different body plan. It lowers its black mass into the mud, exhaling through wet nostrils, conserving strength instead of spending it against the heat. Earlier, its weight controlled the route of the herd. Now that same weight becomes a burden to cool. Across the lagoon, the greater flamingos shut down their feeding rhythm. The flock that filtered brine all morning now stands almost motionless. Many rest on one leg, necks folded into their back feathers. That posture is not simply elegant. Flamingos can lock into a stable, one-legged stance with very little muscular effort, allowing them to rest for long periods while minimizing unnecessary movement. In the midday Camargue, every saved contraction matters. The smaller birds simplify their behavior as well. A black-winged stilt stands in the shallows with its beak slightly open. A pied avocet pauses its side-to-side sweep. A Eurasian spoonbill holds its flattened bill just above the mud. For birds, open bill breathing and throat vibration can help dump heat through evaporation, but it costs water. In a salt marsh, even cooling has a price. Above the surface, the ecosystem looks paused. Below it, the machine continues. In the pink water column, Dunaliella salina remains suspended like red dust. Artemia salina, the brine shrimp that help feed the flamingos, beat their small appendages in steady waves, filtering microalgae, bacteria, and organic particles from the brine. Around submerged roots, shrimp pick at algae films. A crab works its mouthparts through the mud. A hoofprint fills with pink water and becomes a temporary pool, small enough to vanish by evening, but alive enough to matter now. For 20 seconds, the voice disappears. No explanation. No movement. Only the mirror water. The Mistral wind has dropped to zero, and the entire hypersaline ecosystem seems to hold its breath. The camera cuts close, so close that the marsh is reduced to one dark, wet nostril of a Camargue horse resting just above the pink surface. A bubble forms. It swells slowly, trembles against the skin of the lagoon, then breaks without sound. Another rises behind it, then another. The herd is not asleep in the human sense. It is suspended between rest and awareness, using the brackish lagoons as a cooling surface, while every ear remains tuned to the open marsh. When the voice returns, it is quieter. At the hottest point of the day, movement becomes the danger. Survival no longer belongs to the animal that crosses the marsh fastest. It belongs to the one that understands when the body must stop, sink, cool, and wait. Around the lagoon, the same rule holds. A European tree frog presses into shaded vegetation, protecting its thin, moisture-sensitive skin from the open air. A koipu floats low in a cooler channel beneath overhanging roots. A European pond turtle remains fixed on a half-submerged branch, spending almost no energy while the world above it waits. For hours, the kingdom of salt holds its breath. The mud cracks. Minerals gather in white lines. The horses remain in the lagoon, breathing as one body. Then, beyond the reeds, the first thin movement returns to the glasswort. The mistral is coming back. Chapter 4. The wind returns, and the territory is tested. The afternoon does not announce itself with sunlight. It announces itself with alarm. A thin, broken call rises from the shallows, then another. Across the brackish lagoon, black-winged stilts begin lifting from the water one by one, their red legs trailing behind them like loose threads. Nothing has struck yet, but the marsh has already changed its mind. Above the reed beds, a western marsh harrier is moving low. It does not dive from the sky like a falcon. It patrols. Wings held in a shallow V, it slides over reed edge, mud edge, and water edge, using the returning mistral wind to stay almost suspended above the places where small birds, frogs, and small mammals are forced to cross open ground. With a wingspan of roughly 115 to 130 centimeters, it is large enough to cast a serious shadow over the wetland, but its real weapon is patience. The Camargue horses hear the panic before they see the bird. A mare lifts her head from the water. Her ears turn toward the stilts, then toward the reeds. The herd has spent the hottest part of the day almost motionless in the lagoon, letting the water carry away heat. Now the marsh is active again, and stillness is no longer the safest answer. They begin to leave the shallows. Mud clings to their legs as they step out. Salt dries in pale streaks along their coats. The ground has hardened since morning, but not evenly. Some patches have cracked into brittle plates. Others still hide soft mud beneath a glossy skin of water. The horses move with the caution of animals that know the surface lies. Their first need is simple: feed before night. The lead animals turn toward the glasswort pastures, where red-green stems grow close to the salt crust. These plants are tough, fleshy, and built for salinity. They are not rich meadow grass, they are survival food. A stallion lowers his head and pulls at the stems in short, forceful bites, grinding the salt-washed vegetation slowly before stepping on. The flamingos are feeding too, but in another world, layered over the same water. Greater flamingos lower their heads upside down into the pink brine, filtering through mud and suspended life. Their bills separate tiny prey from water with specialized internal plates, turning invisible abundance into body mass and color. The horses disturb mud with their hooves. The flamingos work the same disturbed shallows with their bills. One movement opens the bottom, another harvests it. The delta is no longer quiet. It is exchanging signals. A pied avocet resumes its side-to-side sweep where the water is thin. A Eurasian spoonbill moves more slowly, scything with its flattened bill through cloudy patches. In the reeds, a European tree frog calls once, then stops. That silence matters. At the waterline, a viperine water snake slips between juncus stems and dark roots. Its name suggests venom, but it is not a viper. It is a semi-aquatic hunter, adapted to the boundary where fish, tadpoles and frogs move between cover and open water. Its body breaks into the pattern of mud, algae and reed shadow. The frog holds to a wet stem with rounded toe pads. Its throat pulses. The snake's forked tongue flicks, reading chemical traces carried through the damp air and brine. A gust bends the reed. The frog shifts lower for shelter. That small correction gives the snake its angle. The strike is short, almost hidden by the roots. No long chase, no dramatic spray, just a sudden tightening of patterned muscle and the disappearance of a bright green body into the edge world of water and mud. The horses do not see it, but they live inside the same rule. Every animal in the Camargue is being pushed toward a choice: feed or hide, hold ground or yield it. spend energy or save it. And now a heavier decision enters from the pasture edge. A Camargue bull steps into the grazing line. Black against the pale salt, compact and horned, it carries a different kind of authority from the white herd. Camargue bulls are smaller and more agile than the heavier Spanish fighting bulls, shaped by wet meadows, reed beds, and salt marshes rather than open arenas. This bull does not charge, it simply occupies the firmer ground. The lead mare turns first. A stallion angles his body between the bull and the nearest foal, ears pinned, neck tense. For a few seconds, the frame holds its balance. Black bull, white horses, red lagoon, grey sky, wind driving salt through the glasswood. Then the herd chooses distance. They curve back toward wetter ground, leaving the contested pasture without breaking apart. It is not weakness. It is the intelligence of animals that survive by keeping the herd intact. Behind them, the harrier circles again. Flamingos keep filtering. The snake disappears under the roots. The bull lowers its head to feed. And the Camargue horses begin to gather closer as the light cools. Afternoon has tested their route. Night will test their formation. Chapter 5. The White Circle in the Black Water. The night does not arrive from the sky. It rises from the reeds. First, one European tree frog calls. Then another answers from deeper water. Within minutes, the wet margins become a wall of sound. Sharp pulses thrown across the flat salt marsh until the fading mistral wind is no longer the voice of the Camargue. The day animals have not vanished yet. The night animals have not fully taken over. For a few minutes, both worlds overlap. That is when the white herd begins to change. The Camargue horses gather in the shallow, brackish lagoons, restless but not scattered. Heads lift, manes stiffen in the last wind. A stallion throws his neck upward, and the motion passes through the herd like a spark moving through dry grass. This is not panic. It is stored energy finding one final release before darkness makes speed less useful than structure. Then the first line moves. A trot begins at the edge of the water, tight and synchronized. Hooves strike the flat lagoon in a rhythm too heavy to belong to birds, too unified to be random. The sound rolls across the salt pans. Another line joins, then another. The trot lengthens, gathers force, and suddenly the herd breaks open. The Camargue horses gallop. Under the deep, muted indigo twilight, their white bodies surge through completely flat, shallow water. Every hoof impact sends crystalline splashes exploding upward, suspended for a moment like shattered glass before falling back into the blackening lagoon. In telephoto lens compression, the herd seems endless, mane against mane, shoulder against shoulder, white forms moving through silver spray and purple water. This is the ultimate payoff of the day. Not a chase. Not an escape. A release. The image carries the restraint of David Attenborough-style wildlife storytelling and the visual patience of BBC Earth cinematography. No artificial chaos, no need for exaggeration, only biological realism pushed to its most cinematic edge. The horses are not performing for the camera. They are burning off the final pressure of heat, wind, salt, hunger, and social tension before the marsh turns black. For a few seconds, the Camargue belongs entirely to them. Then the gallop stops. The silence afterward feels violent. Water continues to fall from the air. Ripples spread outward. The frogs keep calling from the reeds. But the herd has already changed shape. The same bodies that were charging through open water now fold inward with astonishing speed. Adults turn toward the darkness. Foals are pushed into the center, where the water is calmer and the angles of attack are narrower. The circle forms. Not perfectly, not magically, but with the rough intelligence of animals that have survived this marsh by staying together. One mare closes a gap with half a step. A stallion swings his body sideways, placing muscle between the reeds and a young foal. Another horse raises its head and holds still, ears cutting the dark into separate directions. The Camargue horse has no horns sharp enough to rule the night, no claws, no camouflage. Its defense is geometry, many bodies facing outward, protecting one vulnerable center. Then the dark tests it. A wild boar breaks through the dry glasswork with its head low, rooting hard into the crust for buried food. It is not hunting the horses. Hunger has simply driven it into the wrong space. The outer ring reacts before the boar understands the boundary it has crossed. One horse surges forward. For an instant, its white chest rises against the black water. Front legs lift, hang, then crash down into the shallows inches from the bristled head. The lagoon erupts. The warning is not symbolic, it is physical. The boar twists away, grunts once, and vanishes into the reed shadow, dragging the sound of broken stems behind it. The foals remain hidden. The adults hold their line. The circle has been tested, not by a clean predator attack, not by a heroic fight, but by the oldest question in the marsh. When the dark presses inward, can the herd stay whole? From this moment on, nocturnal predation becomes the hidden law of the Camargue. Not a single attack, but a slow transfer of power to the fox, the snake, and every hunter working the black edges around the white circle. Tonight, it can. The white herd has secured the delta for tonight, utilizing a flawless packing defense to outlast the predators of the salt marsh. But across the world, on the frozen steppes of the north, another ancient herbivore faces an even more brutal midnight siege. To understand the limits of evolutionary defense, we must follow the trail into the deep snow.